Good afternoon. My name is Devin Madrigal, and this is a demo of my TicTacToe assignment for Mobile App Development 1. Starting off, we're going to look at the TicTacToe.java class. This TicTacToe class is a representation of the TicTacToe game. So we're going to look at the fields. So our first field is side. The side sets the number of boxes within the game. So since it's 4, we're going to have a 4x4 game board. We have turn, which representative of which player's turn it is currently. And then we have a 2D array of integers, which is representative of the game board itself. We have our constructor, which we initialize the game board with the number of sides by sides, and we call it a reset game method, which we'll look at later. We have our play method, which looks at the row and column entered and makes sure that it's a valid spot inside the game board. And then from there, it flips the player's turn. So if player 1 initially chose, it's flips with player 2, and if player 2 chose, it flips to player 1, allowing the players to take turns. Next, we have our who won method, which looks at who won the tic-tac-toe game every time it's called. So we have one to check the rows, we call our check rows method, one for the columns, we call our check columns method, and one to check diagonals, our check columns method. So the first one is to check rows. So you can see we iterate through each row and then check to see that it's a value inside the first one, and then make sure they're all equal to each other. So each individual row, if they're all the same value as in player 1, we know that player 1 won the game. We repeat this for columns, iterating through each column and checking to see if a player won the match, and repeat this for each diagonal, so they're going down right and then going up right. Next, we have our cannot play method, which checks to see if, let's say, neither player won, but the game board is full. If it's full, it will return a true. If there's still a spot to be chosen, we return a false. This is our game over, so it checks if the game is over by either seeing if cannot play is true or if someone won the match is true. So then we have a reset game, which is called by the constructor, which basically assigns the 2D array we made, assigns each value as 0, so to reset the game board. Then we have our results, which shows which player won. Was it a tie game? Or let's say it's time, or the game starts over, which just shows play. Next, we're going to have our button, grid, and text view.java, which is representative of the GUI on the app. So we also, like the TicTacToe.java, we have the same fields for the most part. We have the number of sides, we have the 2D array, and then we have a text view that's status that shows whether it's a tie game, someone plays, if the game's still going on, or if a player won a match. So first we have our main button, grid, and text view, in which we get the sides. We're setting up the 2D array. So the way here, let me just pull up the app real quick. So the way the base game board is going to look is going to be the 4x4 array. So we set the columns, so we have 4 columns, and then we have 5 rows because we're going to keep an extra row for the play button. Next, we go through and set the proper width of each button, so we give it a small width, and so they make sure that they're not all just one box. You kind of have an outline on each one. Pretty much here we're setting up the play button. We're giving the values to make sure it's displayed correctly, and then we have the status, which shows the text on here in this play button. And we have the set status text for this button. We have set status background for the color. It changes. Let's say if a player wins, let's have player 2 win real quick. It will change to a yellow text. So we change the color. We have our set button text, which will assign the button text right here. It will change to player 2-1 or whatever text value is passed in. Then we have our is button, which checks if it's a button inside the 2D array. And we have our reset buttons, which is the same thing as a reset game for the GUI. And then we have our enable buttons, which turns on our buttons that make them, or allows them to be clicked. So let's look at our main activity.java. Starting off with our onCreate. In our onCreate, we create the TicTacToe game, and we create a point. A Windows Manager, with the display. We have the size, we split it between each one of since it's going to be a 4x4 board, we divide it by 4. we're creating display, we initialize the TicTacToe view with this button grid and text view specified up here, or declared up here, and then we set the context view. Then we show, this is the game dialog, so this is going to be the, let me run it again, this will be the text box that appears after a match is finished. Let me pull up the app real quick here. So let's say player 1 wins. This is what appears. Since this game is fun, play again. You can hit yes, play again. As you can see right here, yes, no, the two choices. And this is our button handler class, which we this basically controls all the buttons between this 4x4 layer of the game board. So we go through and we iterate through each column and each row, and we assign whether, depending on which player it is, we set the value. If it's player 1, we know that we're going to put an X. If it's player 2, we're going to put a 0. So right now it's player 2 turn. See a 0 appears, or O. And then X for player 1, O, player 2. See there? This is more if the game is over. You set the color and different stuff, and the different classes in the button and grid text view. .java. Here is the play dialog class, or method. And this basically is some more, this controls the buttons. It makes sure that the button is reset after each match, enables the buttons before each match, sets the background color, sets the text, and then it finishes the activity once the player exits. So now I'm going to reset the game, and we'll look at the different outcomes. So first we're going to look if player 1 wins. So let's say player 1 goes for a diagonal win. Since player 1 won, this game is fun, play again. Now let's look if player 2 wins in the by rows. So player 2. Player 2 won, this game is fun. And let's look at columns. Oh, I accidentally hit no, so let's relaunch the game. So if the player wins by columns, say player 1 is going to win through a column. If player 1 wins, this game is fun, play again. And this is if no one wins. Let's do it like that. It was fun. Player 1 won. Oh, yeah, oops. Let's go. Let's do this again. There you go. Wait, player 2 won. Oh, shoot. Let's see if I can replicate. Tie game, there you go. And exit. And that is the TicTacToe class game made for Android Development 1. Thank you.